She was dragged through the town square for being infertile, until the mountain man cut the rope. The village was built around a wide square with a fountain in the middle. Around it were small shops, a few houses, and the only school. The square was where people met, shared news, and celebrated festivals. It was also where people watched and judged each other. Mara's house was near the edge of the village. It was not big or fancy, but it was clean and warm. She had lived there since she was a child, and she had watched the seasons change in the same place for most of her life. Her parents had died when she was young, and she had been raised by her older sister. When Mara married Joran, the village celebrated. Everyone said she was lucky to marry a kind man from a respected family. At first, life was good. Mara and Joran worked together in the fields, and they shared small moments of happiness. They would sit by the window in the evening, tired from the day, and talk about the future. They dreamed of a house full of children, laughter, and warmth. They imagined the village children running through their yard and their family name continuing for generations. But months passed, then years, and Mara still did not become pregnant. At first, the village spoke kindly. They said, "It will happen soon, you are young." "Don't worry." They smiled and nodded as if the future could be changed by simply being patient. Mara and Joran tried to stay calm. They did not want to believe anything was wrong. They spoke quietly at night, holding each other's hands, and they promised to keep trying. They hoped the next month would be different. They hoped the next year would bring the news they longed for. But the months kept passing. Mara began to feel the weight of the village's eyes. She could feel it even when she walked alone to the market. People would smile at her, but their smiles did not reach their eyes. They would whisper when she passed by. She heard her name spoken softly, as if it was something dangerous. She could feel the distance in their greetings. Joran also felt the pressure. He was a good man, but he was not immune to the village's opinions. His family wanted grandchildren. His mother talked about it often. His father rarely spoke, but his silence was heavy. Even Joran's friends began to avoid him. They would invite him to gatherings, then suddenly find an excuse not to include him. Joran tried to ignore it, but it became harder each day. Mara did not know how to respond. She tried to keep her smile, but it faded more and more. She tried to speak kindly to people, but their responses grew shorter. Some would not look at her at all. She could feel their disappointment as if it were a physical presence. One day, a woman named Lisa, who was known for her loud voice and sharp tongue, stopped Mara on the street. Lisa had been married twice and had 4 children. She was respected in the village because she seemed to know everything about everyone. Lisa looked at Mara with a curious expression. "You still do not have children," she said, loud enough for others to hear. "Why is that?" Mara tried to smile. "We are trying," she said softly. "It just takes time." Lisa shook her head. "It is not time," she said. "It is a sign. You must have done something wrong. The gods do not bless someone who has sinned." Mara's heart sank. She did not know what to say. She wanted to defend herself, but her voice felt small. She felt embarrassed and confused. She did not understand why people believed such things. She wanted to explain that it was not her fault, but she knew it would not change their minds. After that day, the whispers grew louder. People started to avoid Mara completely. Children stopped playing near her house. Even the shopkeepers seemed uncomfortable when she entered. They spoke politely, but their eyes looked away. Mara began to feel like she was being watched every moment. She started to think that the village had turned into a place where kindness no longer existed. She remembered the old days when people would help each other without expecting anything in return. Now, she felt like she was a problem that needed to be removed. At night, Mara would sit alone in her small home and look at the empty space where she imagined a child's bed would be. She would think of the laughter she would never hear. She would think of the future she had once dreamed of, and she would feel a deep sadness that did not leave her. Joran saw her pain, but he did not know how to fix it. He loved Mara, but he felt torn between his love for her and the pressure from his family. He tried to comfort her, but his words felt empty. He began to spend more time outside, working in the fields alone. He started to avoid the village gatherings because he could not stand the looks he received. One evening, Mara asked him quietly, "Do you still love me?" Joran stopped his work and looked at her. His eyes were tired. "Of course I do," he said. "I always have." Mara's voice shook. "Then why does it feel like you are leaving me?" Joran looked down. He did not answer. He did not know how to say that he felt trapped. He did not know how to say that he was afraid of what the village would think if he stayed with her. He did not know how to say that he was afraid of his own family. The silence between them grew. Soon, the village elders began to speak openly about Mara. The elders were the leaders of the village, and their words carried weight. They were respected, and people believed what they said without question. The elders started to say that Mara was cursed. They said that the village must take action to protect itself. One day, the village gathered in the square for a meeting. It was the kind of meeting that people attended because they felt they had no choice. Everyone was there, men, women, and even children. The air was heavy with tension. Mara and Joran stood at the edge of the crowd, unsure why they had been called. The head elder stood in the center of the square. He was an older man with a long beard and a voice that carried across the space. He spoke slowly, as if he were giving a speech. "We have lived in peace for many years," he said. "We have followed the rules, we have respected our traditions, but we cannot ignore what is happening." Mara's heart began to race. She felt a cold fear spread through her body. She looked at Joran, hoping he would protect her. But Joran's face was pale and he looked uncertain. The elder continued, "The village must remain strong. The future of our families depends on children. Without children, our traditions will end. Without children, our village will disappear." The crowd murmured. Some nodded. Some looked worried. The elder pointed toward Mara. "We believe that Mara has brought shame upon us. We believe she has failed in her duty. Therefore, we must take action to cleanse our village." Mara felt her legs tremble. She could not believe what she was hearing. She tried to speak, but her voice did not come out. She wanted to say that she did not deserve this. She wanted to tell them that she had not done anything wrong. She wanted to ask why they were punishing her for something she could not control. But she knew that speaking would not help. The village had already made up its mind. Joran stepped forward. His face was filled with fear. "Please," he said quietly, "this is not fair. Mara has done nothing wrong." The elder looked at Joran. "You have been quiet for too long," he said. "Your silence has allowed this to happen. If you truly love her, you will accept what must be done." Joran's eyes filled with tears. He wanted to protect Mara, but he felt helpless. He looked at her, and for a moment he looked like the man she had once married. But then he looked away and his shoulders sank. He did not move. The crowd began to shout. Some were angry, some were excited. The village had turned into a place where cruelty was celebrated as justice. People began to clap as if they were watching a play. Mara stood still. She felt like she was trapped in a nightmare. She looked at the faces around her. She saw people she had known her whole life. People she had helped when they were sick, people who had smiled at her. Now they looked at her with cold eyes. Mara realized that the village had changed. She realized that she was no longer seen as a person. She was seen as a problem. The elder nodded. "We will remove the curse," he said. "We will cleanse the village. We will restore our honor." Mara felt the world spin. She did not understand what was happening. She did not know what they planned to do, but she knew it would not be good. She looked at Joran again, and she saw his face filled with fear. She saw his confusion. She saw his weakness. She felt a deep pain inside her, not only for herself, but for him too. She knew that he was also trapped by the village's expectations. As the crowd began to move, Mara was taken to the center of the square. She was not alone. People surrounded her, pushing and pulling. Her heart beat fast. She felt the weight of everyone's judgment. She felt their anger and their relief. She felt the village's belief that they were doing the right thing. Mara wanted to shout. She wanted to scream. But she knew that no one would listen. She knew that her voice would only make the situation worse. As she stood there, she realized something important. The village had never been kind to her. They had only been kind when it benefited them. Now they were showing their true colors. They were not protecting her. They were punishing her. Mara looked around one last time. She saw the square, the fountain, the shops, the faces of her neighbors. She saw the place where she had once felt safe. Now it felt like a trap. And in that moment, Mara understood that her life was about to change forever. Mara stood in the center of the village square, her heart beating so fast that she could hear it in her ears. The air felt heavy and still, like a thick blanket. She could not believe this was happening. She had never imagined that the people she grew up with would treat her like this. She had never imagined that her life could change so quickly. The villagers had gathered around her, their faces full of curiosity and judgment. Some looked serious, as if they were watching an important event. Others looked excited, as if they were watching a performance. Mara could not understand how anyone could feel happy about this. She felt like she was a bird trapped in a cage, unable to fly. Joran stood a few steps away. He looked at her with a mix of fear and sadness. His eyes were wet, but he did not move. Mara wanted to reach out to him, to hold his hand, to tell him that she still loved him and that she needed him. But she knew that he would not be able to help her. The village had already decided their fate. The elder raised his hand and spoke in a loud voice. "Mara," he said, "you have brought shame to our village. You have not fulfilled your duty. You have not given us a child. Therefore, you must be removed from the village until the gods decide to bless you." Mara's throat tightened. She did not understand what he meant by removed. She looked around, trying to find an answer in the faces of the villagers. She saw a few men holding a rope. The rope was thick and long. It looked old and rough. Mara's stomach tightened as she realized what they were planning. One of the men stepped forward. He was a tall man with a stern face. He held the rope and looked at Mara. "This is for the good of the village," he said. "You must accept it." Mara's voice shook. "I did not do anything wrong," she said softly. "Please, you must believe me." The man did not answer. He simply nodded to the others. Mara felt a cold fear spread through her body. She did not know what would happen next. She looked at Joran again, hoping he would stop them. But Joran's face was blank. He did not move. He did not speak. He looked as if he had already accepted the village's decision. Mara felt a deep sadness. She realized that she was alone. She realized that she could not rely on anyone in this place. She could not rely on the people who had once been her friends. She could not rely on her husband. She could not rely on the village. The men tied the rope around Mara's waist. The rope was tight and rough against her skin. It felt uncomfortable and humiliating. She felt the weight of it, like a symbol of everything the village had done to her. She tried to stay calm, but her body trembled. The villagers began to move. They pulled the rope slowly, dragging Mara through the square. Mara's feet slid along the ground. She tried to keep her balance, but it was difficult. The rope pulled her forward, and she felt like she was being carried by a force she could not control. As she was dragged, people watched. Some looked away, unable to watch. Others stared without emotion. A few children stood close, curious and confused. Mara saw a little girl who looked about 8 years old. The girl's eyes were wide, and she seemed unsure of what she was seeing. Mara's heart ached when she saw the child. She remembered how she used to dream of having children. She remembered the idea of a little girl running to her, laughing. Now she was being pulled through the square like an object. The path they followed led past the fountain, where the water sparkled in the sunlight. Mara had always loved the fountain. She had sat near it as a child, watching the water move. Now the fountain seemed like a symbol of the life she had lost. It was still beautiful, but it did not feel the same. People spoke quietly as Mara passed. They whispered about her, and she could hear their words even though they tried to speak softly. "She should have been more careful," one woman said. "She must have done something wrong," another replied. "Maybe she is cursed," a man said. Mara wanted to shout. She wanted to tell them that she did not do anything wrong. She wanted to tell them that she was not cursed. She wanted to tell them that she had tried her best. But she knew that her words would not change their minds. She knew that their belief was too strong. The rope continued to pull her. Her feet dragged along the ground. She felt the roughness of the stone under her shoes. She felt the heat of the sun on her skin. She felt the embarrassment of being watched by everyone. Joran followed behind her. He did not help her. He did not stop the men. He did not speak. Mara felt anger rise inside her, but it was mixed with sadness. She did not want to hate him, but she could not understand why he would let this happen. The men led Mara toward the edge of the village. The path went past the old mill and the small chapel. The chapel was a place where people prayed. Mara had prayed there many times. She had prayed for a child. She had prayed for happiness. She had prayed for strength. Now the chapel seemed far away, like a place from another life. She wondered if the gods had heard her prayers at all. She wondered if they cared. The men stopped near the village gate. The gate was old and made of wood. It looked like it had been there for many years. Beyond the gate, the path led into the mountains. The mountains were tall and dark, and they looked both beautiful and frightening. The leader of the men spoke again. "Mara," he said, "you will go beyond the village. You will live outside until the gods decide your fate." Mara's eyes filled with tears. She tried to speak, but her voice did not come out. She felt a strong wave of emotion, and she could not hold it back anymore. She began to cry. The tears flowed down her cheeks. She felt a deep pain in her chest. She felt the loss of her home, her family, and her life. She felt the weight of the village's judgment. She felt the shame they had placed on her. The men did not stop. They did not offer comfort. They did not look at her with sympathy. They simply continued to pull the rope. Myra took one last look at the village. She looked at the houses, the square, the fountain, and the people. She looked at the faces of those who had once smiled at her. She looked at Joran's face. She saw the sadness in his eyes. She saw his fear. She saw his weakness. Then she turned away. The path beyond the gate was narrow and steep. The mountains looked high and unforgiving. Myra had never been beyond the village. She had heard stories about the mountain paths, but she had never seen them herself. She did not know what awaited her. The men pulled her into the path, and the village disappeared behind her. The sounds of the square faded. The voices of the villagers grew quiet. The world became silent, except for the sound of her footsteps and the rope dragging behind her. As Mara walked, she tried to think of what she could do next. She tried to imagine a future. She tried to imagine a life beyond the village, but her thoughts were heavy. She felt tired and weak. She felt as if her heart was broken. The path became more difficult. The stones were uneven. The wind was cold. Myra's clothes were not suitable for the mountain weather. She felt the chill in her bones. She tried to stay strong, but her body began to feel the strain. After some time, the men stopped. They tied the rope to a tree and stepped back. Myra looked at them, confused. The leader spoke. "You will stay here," he said. "If you return to the village, you will bring shame again. You must stay outside. You must prove your worth." Myra looked at the tree. The rope was tied tightly. She felt trapped. She felt like a prisoner, but she had not committed a crime. She had not harmed anyone. She had only been unable to have a child. The men turned and walked away. They did not look back. They did not speak. They left Myra alone in the mountain path. Myra stood there alone with the rope tied to the tree. She felt the cold wind on her face. She felt the silence around her. She felt the loneliness that surrounded her like a dark cloud. She began to cry again, but this time her tears were mixed with anger. She was angry at the village. She was angry at the elders. She was angry at herself for being unable to change anything. She was angry at Joran for not standing up for her. She looked around, trying to find something that could help her. She saw a small path that led further into the mountains. She saw trees and rocks. She saw the sky above, clear and bright. Myra took a deep breath. She wiped her tears. She looked at the rope tied to the tree. She knew she could not stay there forever. She knew she needed to find a way to survive. She looked at the mountains and felt a strange feeling. She felt that the mountains were not only dangerous but also free. They were a place where no one could judge her. They were a place where she could start again. Myra decided that she would not give up. She decided that she would find a way to live. She decided that she would not let the village's cruelty destroy her spirit. She looked toward the mountain path and took her first step. Myra walked along the mountain path, her feet aching and her body tired. The wind was cold, and the air smelled of pine trees. She could still feel the rope tied to the tree behind her, and she knew she had to leave it behind. She knew she could not stay there forever. She had to find a place where she could live, where she could be safe. As she walked, she thought about the village and the people she had left behind. She thought about the square, the fountain, and the faces of those who had watched her. She thought about Joran and the sadness in his eyes. She thought about the way he had not helped her. She thought about the way he had let the village decide her fate. Myra felt a mix of emotions. She felt sadness, anger, and fear, but she also felt something else. She felt a small spark of hope. She felt a feeling that she had not felt in a long time. She felt the idea that she could still be strong, she could still live, she could still find a way. The mountain path became steeper. The trees grew thicker. The sunlight became weaker as the branches covered the sky. Myra felt as if she was entering another world. The village felt far away now, like a memory from another life. She walked for hours. She drank water from a small stream and ate a few berries she found along the way. She tried to keep her thoughts calm. She tried to stay focused on survival. She knew that she had to find shelter before nightfall. As the sun began to set, Myra found a small cave in the side of the mountain. It was not a big cave, but it was dry and protected from the wind. She walked inside and sat down. She wrapped her shawl around her shoulders and tried to rest. The cave was quiet. The silence was different from the village silence. In the village, silence meant judgment. In the mountains, silence meant peace. Myra felt her heart slow down. She felt her breathing become calmer. She thought about what she would do next. She knew she could not stay in the cave forever. She knew she had to find food, water, and a safe place to live. She also knew she had to learn how to survive in the mountains. Myra closed her eyes and tried to sleep. But she could not sleep. Her mind was busy. She thought about the village and the future. She thought about the way people had treated her. She thought about how she would never be able to return. After a while, she heard a sound outside the cave. She sat up quickly, her heart beating fast. She listened carefully. The sound came again. It was the sound of footsteps. Mara felt fear again. She did not know who was outside. She did not know if it was a wild animal or a person. She stood up slowly and moved closer to the entrance of the cave. She looked out and saw a man standing there. He was tall and strong, with a thick beard and long hair. His clothes were simple, made from animal skin and cloth. He looked like someone who lived in the mountains. His eyes were calm, but his face was serious. Mara's heart raced. She did not know what to do. She felt scared, but she also felt a strange sense of relief. She was not alone anymore. She had not expected to see anyone in this remote place. The man spoke softly. "You are far from the village," he said. "Why are you here?" Mara did not answer at first. She looked at him carefully. She could see that he was not dangerous. He did not look like someone who wanted to harm her. He looked like someone who had lived alone for a long time. Finally, Mara spoke. "I was forced to leave," she said. "The village punished me because I could not have a child." The man nodded. He did not look surprised. He seemed to understand. "I have heard stories about the village," he said. "They can be harsh." Mara's eyes filled with tears. She felt a wave of emotion. She wanted to tell him everything. She wanted to explain how she had been dragged through the square. She wanted to tell him how the villagers had looked at her. She wanted to tell him how she felt like her life had ended. But she did not want to cry in front of him. She did not want to appear weak. She took a deep breath and wiped her tears. The man watched her with quiet patience. "My name is Eldon," he said. "I live in the mountains. I have been alone for many years." Mara felt a small relief. "My name is Mara," she said. "I am sorry for disturbing you." Eldon shook his head. "You are not disturbing me," he said. "I was not expecting anyone here, but you are welcome." Mara felt surprised. She had expected him to send her away. She had expected him to be angry, but he was calm and kind. Eldon looked at Mara's clothes and the rope marks on her waist. "You have been through a lot," he said. "You need rest." Mara nodded. "Thank you," she said. "I do not know what to do next." Eldon sat down near the entrance of the cave. He looked at her and spoke in a gentle voice. "You can stay here for the night," he said. "Tomorrow I will show you a place where you can live. It is not far from here. It is safe." Mara felt a strong feeling of gratitude. She did not know how to express it. She wanted to say thank you, but she felt that words were not enough. She looked at Eldon and nodded. They sat in silence for a while. The night grew darker. The stars appeared in the sky. The wind blew softly through the trees. Mara felt a strange calmness. She felt that she was finally safe. Eldon stood up. "I will go and get some food," he said. "You should rest." Mara watched him leave. She felt a small fear. She did not know if he would return. She did not know if he would be kind or cruel, but she trusted him. She felt that he was different from the villagers. He was not judging her. He was not angry. Mara tried to sleep again, but her mind kept thinking. She wondered why Eldon had helped her. She wondered if he had his own reasons. She wondered if he had ever been hurt by the village. She wondered if he had been lonely for a long time. She also thought about the village. She wondered what they were doing now. She wondered if they had forgotten her. She wondered if Joran was still there, living his life as if nothing had happened. Mara's thoughts continued until she finally fell asleep. The next morning, Mara woke up to the sound of birds singing. The sun was shining through the cave entrance. She felt a sense of hope. She felt that today could be a new beginning. Eldon returned with a small basket of food. He placed it near her and smiled. "Eat," he said. "You need strength." Mara ate slowly. The food was simple, but it tasted good. She felt the warmth return to her body. She felt her energy returning. After she finished eating, Eldon spoke. "Come with me," he said. "I will show you the place where you can stay." Mara followed him down the mountain path. The air was fresh and clean. The trees looked bright in the sunlight. Mara felt like she was in a different world. They walked for a while until they reached a small clearing. In the middle of the clearing was a simple house made of wood and stone. It was not a large house, but it looked strong and warm. There was a small garden with herbs and vegetables. The place looked like a home. Eldon stopped and looked at Mara. "This is where I live," he said. "You can stay here if you want. You will have your own room. You will have food. You will be safe." Mara looked at the house. She felt a strange feeling. She felt both fear and hope. She had never imagined that someone would offer her a home. She had never imagined that she could find safety. She looked at Eldon. "Why are you helping me?" she asked. Eldon looked at her calmly. "Because I know what it feels like to be judged," he said. "Because I know what it feels like to be alone, and because I believe that no one should be punished for something they cannot control." Mara felt tears in her eyes again. She did not know how to respond. She felt grateful and surprised. She felt that she had found someone who understood her. Mara nodded. "Thank you," she said. "I will stay." Eldon smiled. "You are welcome," he said. "Now you should rest." "We will talk later." Myra entered the house. She saw a small room with a bed and a table. It was simple, but it was clean and warm. She felt a sense of comfort. She felt that for the first time in a long time, she could breathe. Myra sat on the bed and looked out the window. She saw the mountains, the trees, and the sky. She felt a sense of peace. She felt that her life was changing. She felt that she had a chance to start again. But she also knew that her past would not disappear. She knew that the village would always be a part of her story. She knew that she would never forget what had happened. She knew that she would always feel the pain of being judged. Still, Mara felt hope. She felt that she could live again. She felt that she could find a new path. She closed her eyes and whispered to herself, "I will not give up." Myra stayed in the small house in the mountains for several weeks. Each day, she woke up to the sound of birds singing and the soft wind moving through the trees. The air felt fresh and clean, and she could breathe without the heavy weight of judgment. The house was simple, but it was warm and safe. Mara began to feel a sense of peace that she had not felt in a long time. Eldon was kind to her, but he did not act like a hero. He did not treat her like someone who needed to be saved. He treated her like a person who deserved respect. He gave her space, but he also offered help when she needed it. He taught her how to cook with the herbs he grew in his garden. He showed her how to collect water from the stream without wasting it. He taught her how to make a small fire safely. Mara learned quickly. She was surprised by her own strength. She had never thought she could survive alone in the mountains. But she was learning, and she was becoming stronger. She felt her confidence returning. She began to believe that she could live a good life, even if it was different from what she had imagined. Still, the memories of the village were always there. They did not disappear. They would come back suddenly, like a shadow that followed her. She would remember the square, the rope, and the faces of the people who had watched her. She would remember the feeling of being judged. She would remember the moment she realized that she had been abandoned. Some days Mara would sit by the window and look at the mountains. She would think about her old life and feel a deep sadness. She would wonder if she would ever be able to forget. She would wonder if she would ever feel truly happy again. Eldon noticed her moments of silence. He did not push her to talk, but he did not ignore her either. He would sometimes sit with her and speak softly about small things, like the weather or the way the birds sang. He wanted to show her that life could still be beautiful, even after pain. One day, Eldon asked Myra to help him with the garden. They walked outside together. The garden was small, but it was full of herbs and vegetables. There were rows of green plants, and the soil looked rich and healthy. Eldon pointed to a row of herbs and explained how to care for them. Mara listened carefully. She was surprised by how much she enjoyed the work. She felt the soil in her hands and felt connected to the earth. She felt a sense of purpose. She realized that she could build something new. She could grow a new life, just like the plants in the garden. As they worked, Mara noticed that Eldon was quiet. He did not speak much about his past. She wondered why he had chosen to live alone in the mountains. She wondered if he had been hurt by the village too. Finally, Mara asked him, "Why do you live here alone?" she asked. Eldon paused. He looked at the plants and then looked at Mara. "I used to live in the village," he said. "But I left because I could not accept how people treated each other." Mara felt surprised. "What happened?" she asked. Eldon sighed. "I was once part of the village council," he said. "I was young and believed that I could help people. But I saw how quickly they turned against those who were different. I saw how they judged others without understanding. I saw how they punished people for things they could not control." Mara listened quietly. She felt a connection to his story. She realized that he understood her pain. Eldon continued, "I left because I could not stay in a place where kindness was weak and fear was strong. I left because I did not want to become like them." Mara felt a deep respect for him. She realized that he had made a difficult choice. He had chosen to live alone rather than be part of a cruel society. Mara thought about the village again. She wondered if they had changed. She wondered if anyone had realized what they had done. She wondered if anyone had felt regret. One afternoon, Mara heard a sound outside the house. It was the sound of footsteps. She went to the window and looked outside. She saw a group of people walking toward the house. They looked tired and worried. Myra's heart began to race. She felt fear again. She did not know who they were. She did not know why they were coming. She looked at Eldon, who was standing nearby. Eldon saw her fear and placed a hand on her shoulder. "Do not worry," he said softly. "They are not here to harm you." Myra took a deep breath and stepped outside. The group of people stopped near the garden. Myra recognized one of them. It was Joran. Joran looked older and more tired than before. His face was pale and his eyes looked sad. Myra felt a rush of emotions. She felt anger, sadness, and confusion. She wanted to ask him why he had left her. She wanted to ask him why he had not helped her. She wanted to ask him why he had let the village punish her. But she also felt a small part of her that still cared for him. She remembered the good moments they had shared. She remembered the way he had smiled at her in the early days of their marriage. She remembered the love she had once felt. Joran looked at Mara with a serious expression. "Mara," he said softly, "I have been looking for you." Mara's voice shook. "Why?" she asked. Joran looked down. He seemed ashamed. "I did not know where you were," he said. "I could not live with what happened. I could not live with the way the village treated you. I have been feeling guilty every day." Mara felt her heart tighten. She wanted to believe him, but she was unsure. She had been hurt deeply. She did not know if she could trust him again. Joran continued. "The village has changed," he said. "People are not as cruel as they were. Many of them feel regret. They have realized that what they did was wrong." Mara looked at him. "And what about you?" she asked. "Did you feel regret?" Joran's eyes filled with tears. "Yes," he said. "I was afraid. I was scared of what the village would do to me if I stood up for you. I was weak." "I am sorry." Mara felt a mix of emotions. She felt anger, but she also felt a sense of relief. She realized that he was not perfect, but he was honest. He was not trying to hide his mistake. Joran looked at Eldon. "Thank you for helping her," he said. "I know I do not deserve it." Eldon nodded. He did not say much. He simply looked at Joran with a calm expression. Myra stood quietly thinking. She did not know what to do. She did not know if she should forgive him. She did not know if she should go back to the village. She did not know if she could ever feel safe there again. Joran spoke again. "I came here because I want to ask for your forgiveness," he said. "I want to make things right." Mara looked at him. She felt tears in her eyes. She did not know if forgiveness was possible. She did not know if she could trust him again. She thought about the life she had built with Eldon. She thought about the peace she had found. She thought about the new home. She thought about the strength she had gained. She realized that she did not need to go back to the village to be happy. Myra took a deep breath. She looked at Joran and said, "I do not know if I can forgive you. I do not know if I can forget, but I am not the same person I was before. I have learned to live without the village. I have learned to be strong." Joran nodded slowly. He looked sad, but he seemed to understand. "I understand," he said. "I just wanted you to know that I am sorry. I wanted you to know that I still care." Mara looked at Eldon. Eldon nodded as if he understood her decision. Joran stayed for a short time. He spoke with Eldon and they talked about simple things. They talked about the village, the weather, and the mountains. Mara listened quietly. She did not speak much. She needed time to think. When Joran left, Mara felt a mix of emotions. She felt relief, but she also felt sadness. She realized that she had lost something important. She realized that her old life was gone. She realized that she would never be able to return to the village as she was before. But she also felt a sense of freedom. She realized that she had a new life. She realized that she was not trapped anymore. She realized that she had the power to choose her own path. That night, Mara sat by the window and looked at the stars. She thought about the village, the people, and the past. She thought about the future and the choices she had to make. She knew that she could not forget what had happened. She knew that the pain would always be there. But she also knew that she could choose how to live now. She could choose to be strong. She could choose to be kind. She could choose to build a new life. Myra whispered to herself, "I will not let the past control me." And in the quiet of the mountain night, she felt a small sense of peace. Myra woke to the sound of the sun rising over the mountains. Light spilled across the wooden floor of the house, warm and gentle, and she felt a peace she had never known in the village. The world outside looked alive. Birds sang in the trees, and a soft breeze carried the smell of pine and wildflowers. Myra took a deep breath and smiled. For the first time in years, she felt truly free. She walked outside and saw Eldon tending to the garden. The herbs and vegetables grew strong and green under his careful hands. The small home in the mountains had become more than a shelter. It had become a place of safety, a place of learning, a place where Mara could imagine a life full of possibilities. Eldon noticed her and smiled. "Good morning," he said. "Sleep well?" Mara nodded. "Yes," she said. "I feel lighter today." "You have grown strong," Eldon said softly. "Stronger than you realize." Mara felt a warmth in her chest. It was not just the sun or the beauty of the mountains. It was a feeling that she could survive anything now, that she could face the world with courage. For the next few weeks, Mara settled into her new life. She helped Eldon care for the house, the animals, and the garden. She learned how to read the stars and predict the weather. She learned how to move quietly in the forest and how to gather food from the streams and the trees. Each day, her confidence grew, and she felt the fear of the past slowly fading. But Mara also thought of the village. She wondered what people were saying now. Had they forgotten her? Had they realized the harm they had done? She thought about Joran and the regret he had shown. She thought about the faces in the square, the whispers, and the rope. Though she was far away, the memories remained, like a shadow that sometimes visited her in the quiet moments of the evening. One afternoon, while Mara worked in the garden, Eldon spoke. "You have grown stronger, Mara," he said. "Have you thought about what you want for your future?" Mara paused, wiping sweat from her brow. I want to live a life that is my own," she said. "I want to be free from fear, from judgment, from shame. I want to learn to grow and maybe one day to help someone else who needs it." Eldon nodded. "That is wise," he said. "Strength is not only about surviving, it is about living fully and helping others when you can." Mara smiled. She felt a sense of purpose she had never felt before. She realized that life was no longer about what the village expected of her. Life was about her, her choices, and the kindness she could share. One day, a stranger arrived at the mountain house. He was a traveler, a young man who had heard stories of the mountains and wanted to learn from Eldon. He brought news from the village, a story of regret and reflection. Mara listened carefully as the traveler spoke. "The village has changed," he said. "People have realized that they were wrong to treat you as they did. Many have tried to make amends, but they understand now that some harm cannot be undone. They speak your name with respect, not judgment." Mara felt a mix of emotions. Relief, yes, but also sadness. She knew that forgiveness from the village was not her responsibility. Her life had moved on. Still, she felt a sense of closure. The people she had once known now understood the harm they had caused, and she could let go of some of the weight she had carried for so long. Eldon saw the look on her face. "It is not your duty to return," he said. "Your duty is to yourself." Mara nodded. She felt a quiet strength inside her, a certainty that she could build her own path, independent of the past. In the following months, Mara grew even stronger and more skilled in the ways of the mountains. She learned to hunt small animals, to fish in the streams, and to make medicine from the herbs around her. Eldon taught her how to read the signs of the forest, the clouds, the wind, the movements of animals. Mara found joy in her accomplishments and pride in her independence. One evening, while watching the sun set over the peaks, Mara reflected on her journey. She remembered the day she was dragged through the village square, the fear, the shame, the loneliness. She remembered how Joran had failed to protect her, how the village had judged her unfairly. But she also remembered Eldon, who had offered her safety, kindness, and wisdom. She remembered her own courage, her determination to survive, and her willingness to learn and grow. Mara realized that she had been transformed by the experience. The pain of the past had not destroyed her, it had shaped her. It had taught her resilience, empathy, and the power of self-reliance. She had been forced to leave everything familiar, but in doing so, she had found something far more valuable, freedom and strength. Eldon approached her quietly. "You have changed," he said. "You are no longer the person you were when you arrived." Mara smiled. "I know," she said, "and I am grateful. I am grateful for the lessons, the challenges, and the kindness I have received. I am ready for the life ahead." The days passed, and Mara continued to thrive in the mountains. She helped Eldon with the work around the house, shared knowledge about the forest, and even began to teach him small things she had learned herself. Together, they lived simply but fully, connected to the land and to the joy of learning and growing. One morning, Mara received an unexpected visitor. Joran had returned again. This time he came not to ask for forgiveness, but to see the woman he once loved, to witness the strength she had gained. Mara welcomed him with calmness. She had no anger in her heart, only clarity. Joran looked around the mountain home in awe. He saw Mara's skills, the garden, the house, and the way she moved with confidence and grace. He realized that the person he had left behind was gone. In her place stood someone strong, independent, and unafraid of life. "I am proud of you," Joran said quietly. "I see now what I failed to protect. I see the person you have become, and I am sorry for everything." Mara nodded. "I do not need apologies anymore," she said. "I have built a life for myself. I am no longer the person who could be broken by fear or shame. I have learned to live fully, and that is more important than anything else." Joran nodded, understanding that his role in her life had changed. He did not expect to return to the past. He did not expect to reclaim what was lost. He simply wanted to acknowledge her strength, and Mara allowed him that moment of closure. After Joran left, Mara felt a deep sense of peace. She realized that her past no longer controlled her. She had the power to choose her path, to embrace life, and to help others along the way. Time passed, and Mara continued to thrive in the mountains. She became known as someone who had survived great hardship and emerged stronger and wiser. Travelers who passed through the mountains heard stories of a woman who lived with courage and kindness, a woman who had been judged unfairly but had found freedom and strength in the world beyond the village. Mara knew that she could never forget her past completely. The pain of being dragged through the square and the judgment of the villagers would always be a part of her story. But she had learned to carry it with grace, without letting it define her. She had learned that her value was not determined by the opinions of others, but by her own choices, her courage, and her heart. Eldon continued to live alongside her, teaching her, sharing wisdom, and helping her grow. Their relationship was one of mutual respect and friendship, built on trust and understanding. Mara felt grateful for his presence in her life, for the guidance and protection he had offered, and for the example of integrity and kindness he embodied. Mara also found joy in the simple things, tending the garden, cooking meals, listening to the birds, and walking through the forest. Each day was a gift, a chance to live fully and to appreciate the beauty around her. She discovered that happiness did not come from the approval of others or from fulfilling their expectations, but from the courage to be oneself and the willingness to embrace life with an open heart. One evening, as the sun dipped below the mountains and the sky turned pink and gold, Mara sat outside her home, reflecting on her journey. She had faced fear, injustice, and heartbreak, but she had also experienced kindness, growth, and freedom. She had learned that life was not about avoiding challenges, but about meeting them with courage and grace. Mara whispered to herself, "I am free, I am strong, I am ready for whatever comes next." The wind carried her words through the mountains, and the birds sang as if in agreement. Mara knew that she had found her place in the world, a place of peace, purpose, and strength. She had survived the storm of judgment and fear, and she had emerged wiser, braver, and full of hope. And in that quiet mountain home, surrounded by nature and guided by wisdom, Mara finally felt whole.